Welcome back to Essentials, your go-to show for basic baking techniques and recipes. Today we're diving down into the very delicious world of fried dough. So we're doing 3 recipes: churros, beignets, and funnel cake. Bakit yung tatlong yun? Because I want to show you different leavening agents and see the difference when you fry it. We'll start with some water, butter, sugar, and salt. So very similar to how you make pata choux or the dough that we use for things like cream puffs or eclairs. I'm using brown sugar because I like brown sugar. You can use white if you'd like. Then, sasalang na natin siya dito sa stove. High heat muna. We just want the butter to melt. You want it to all come together. And then once it comes to a boil, we'll bring the heat down to low. Then we'll add our starch, which is all-purpose flour. Alright, so it's boiling. I'll just turn off the heat. I like using a wooden spoon. Hassle if you use a whisk because it gets in between. All at the same time you put in your flour. And immediately you'll see that it starts forming into a dough. Once all the flour is hydrated, I'm gonna turn the heat back on. Pero, over low heat. How will we know if the dough is done cooking? It should release from the sides of your saucepan. That's what you want. We just need to cool this down and then we'll mix in some eggs. It doesn't have to be cold. It just has to be cool enough so that when we mix in the eggs, it doesn't turn into scrambled eggs. Okay, so you add your eggs one at a time, making sure that there's no visible yolk or egg white before you add in the other one. Or else it'll end up like this. It's gonna be much harder to mix together. I use a different bowl because this already happened to me. I kept on adding eggs to whatever I was making, and then the next egg I added was green. Okay, so yung texture na gusto natin is it keeps its shape but it's pipeable. Alright, we'll fill the bag. And naka-star tip ako. Ginagawa ko lang, I put it around my hat and then cover. Like this. I just use my hand. Parang dun ko sinascrape yung spatula or wooden spoon that time. Ayan, perfect. So the dough is not too tough na magbaburst yung pastry bag natin. And it's not too smooth na it falls on its own. Tago na muna natin sa freezer so that we can work on the next. I like to do when it comes to bread is combining my main liquid ingredients. So it's the milk and the water, and I like dissolving my salt just so you know that you're getting an even distribution of salt. So for beignets, it's a bit sticky. The dough will be a bit sticky, so I prefer using a stand mixer than like having to do it by hand. First up is the flour, our instant yeast. Depending on the yeast that you're using, we're using instant yeast, so no need to activate it. I added sugar. Sugar is what feeds the yeast, and when the yeast gets fed, it produces gases that gives your dough that rise. And the gluten development is what keeps your bread whole, and it's also what gives it structure. Starting with low speed, I'll add my eggs. My liquid or my milk mixture. I don't add all, just in case. And then my vanilla extract. So if you had to compare stand mixer versus kneading it manually, 3 to 5 minutes of kneading your dough using your stand mixer is equivalent to 12 minutes of kneading it manually. So by half yung mababawasan sa pagod nyo. Scrape the sides. So usually, one of the most obvious is the dough will start releasing from the sides of your bowl. But for this one, it's a bit sticky. Ang magiging gauge natin is if it sticks to your skin when you touch it lightly. Alright, so this is good enough. If you have time, you can always make your dough a day in advance and just let it proof overnight. Just make sure it's in the fridge, not the freezer, just the fridge. And that slow fermentation will also aid in gluten development. I keep saying that because it's one of the most important parts of making bread. We'll cover this, put it in the fridge, and we'll give it 2 hours. It's been a while since I've last seen funnel cakes anywhere, and I really love it because it's so easy to use, it's so easy to make, and it's very delicious. You can add whatever topping you want. So ang leavener naman natin for this one, or the thing that will make our product rise, is baking powder. So kanina we used yeast. A while ago it was just cooking the dough, and now it's baking powder. Dry ingredients muna: flour, baking powder, some salt, and powdered sugar. So I have milk, eggs, and my vanilla extract. You can use water, but if you use water, then your cake will be a bit sad. This is gonna have some body to it, not like a super thin batter. Alright, so we'll transfer our batter into the piping bag. Since this is a batter, it's thin, what I like doing is tying it with this disposable piping bag. Set this aside first. So while waiting, I'll put this in the fridge. Okay. We're gonna go with the churros first. So before that, let's mix our sugar and cinnamon powder. And this will be sprinkled all over our churros. Let's check the temp. Perfect frying temp is 355 to 360. And slowly, rest well, my babies. Become beautiful. Alright, so this is gonna be our dip for the churros. It's dark chocolate and heavy cream. So the ratio is 1:2. So 1 cup of the chocolate and 2 cups of cream. Just keep mixing until it's smooth. If you want it to be thinner, lighter, simply add more cream. Every time you add in a batch, make sure to check your temp. Always bring it back to the original temperature that you want, and that's how you will get consistent results. It's actually applicable to in other fried stuff like fried chicken. I'm sorry, ganun talaga. If you want perfection, you really have to give it attention and time. Giant funnel cake. May look weird now, but it will look better once we add the toppings. Next is the beignet. So we have to put a generous amount of flour. And for this one, we'll just use our hands. Make sure it's equal. If you want it perfect, up to you. Then using a pizza cutter or a pastry cutter like this, there is a difference between this scraper and what I'm holding here, the pastry cutter. This one has like a knife edge to it. This one is just blunt. Cut this into around 4 by 4 rectangle it is. This one I'll probably go to 360. There. Perfect temp. Baste it for a few seconds. Beignet. Alright, so churros, of course, we have to dip it. Ooh. Mmm. Perfectly toasted yung outer part and the middle is still chewy. Basically what you also get from your cream puffs. Except this one, since it's fried, it keeps the texture longer. Even without the dip, it's so good. Super easy to do, except for that crucial step of cooking your dough. Other than that, you can make this every day. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've last seen a funnel cake served anywhere here, and it's underrated. It's fun to cook too. So this one, it's light, but the texture is more on the chewy side. It's chewy fried cake. Nakakamiss. Again, you can add fruits, omit the chocolate, whatever you want. Dulce de leche, anything. Even serve it with ice cream. I like this one. The star of the show, the belle of the ball, fluffy beignet. Ooh, look at that. See? That's what happens. Those bubble things, that's where the gases were trapped. Yun yung pinroduce ng yeast natin. It's so soft. Okay. I feel like this one is perfect with just powdered sugar. Man, so that's it. Our 3 fried doughs, leavened in different ways, from just mechanical, chemical, and natural, which is yeast. Actually, any of these 3, I would recommend you do, because they all turned out so well. That's it for our 3 fried dough recipes. I really hope you guys learned a lot, or at least itry nyo to after. But before I go, I just wanted to say, here at FEATR, or the Fat Kid Inside Studios, we don't always get everything right the first time, okay? But it doesn't bring us down, because you know, you learn as much about who you are and what you're made of from failing as much as you do from winning. So if you fail, don't stop, just keep going until you get it right, and then, you know, maybe you can make beautiful beignets like these or other pastry stuff, I guess. Right, so until next time.